For our next keynote, please welcome Claire Peters, Worldwide Vice President of Amazon Fresh. Claire will be interviewed by Grocery Shop's Vice President of Original Content and Strategy, Ben Miller.
Well, good afternoon, Claire, and a very warm welcome to Grocery Shop.
Thank you very much. It's an absolute pleasure to be here.
Let's start. There is almost a really interesting contradiction about Amazon, that it is simultaneously ubiquitous. Everybody knows Amazon, the world's biggest online retailer. And yet at the same time, it's probably the retailer we get asked the most questions about around understanding the grocery strategy, the grocery intent. So thank you for offering to spend 20 minutes with us to really explore that and really unpack it. So I just think we're going to dive straight in. Let's go really big picture. What is Amazon's ambition and strategy in grocery?
Thanks, Ben. Start with a nice, easy one. So how we look at it is, I think it would be fair to say, shopping for food, grocery, household essentials has probably never been harder than what it has been in the last 20 years. If we look at the different selections, the brands, the products, the websites, how and where we choose to shop. Quite frankly, so much time and energy gets put into that when we're asking customers to arguably learn different websites, navigations. It's just really, really tough. When you think most customers will go to 4 to 5 grocery retailers a month, that's pretty hard going on them. We believe at Amazon that we can help to change that by making grocery shopping as easy every day for customers, making it affordable, making it simple, make it fast. We already today have a very large Amazon.com grocery business that sells thousands of lines on groceries and households. When you add on top Amazon Fresh, Whole Foods Market, Amazon Go, and now in the US, up to 20 local grocery retailers, you can start to see how all that selection really can come together. Probably if I try and bring that all together, because there's a lot of words in that.
Give us an example.
I'll use an LA example. So some of you may know Woodland Hills. We have a lot of those banners in LA. And, we try and picture that, a customer on a Sunday evening is planning to do their full weekly online shop from Fresh Food, wanting to get it, as they come home from work in that 1 hour precise delivery, and you're very much set for the week. Monday morning comes, maybe it's just my house, but normally chaos, and you see that returns is still on the side, but it's okay because there's an Amazon Go on your way to the office where you can drop in that package and return within the automated kiosk, 60 seconds done, and why not grab a sandwich on the way out? So already, 24 hours and you've done some of those 2 biggest tasks in the week. Let's move along to the end of the week. Maybe just me, but normally by Friday, I'm kind of out of meal planning ideas. So actually, where can we go for some kind of inspiration or some prepared foods? In our case, that could be Whole Foods or Fresh. Bring that home, and why not actually pick up some of those specialty products, whether it's artisan bread from Cardenas, and have that as a wonderful Friday evening shop. We're all off to bed. Alexa tells us, good news, subscribe and save delivery is coming to you Saturday morning, as it does every month in order for your bulky and household goods to be delivered to you. So when you wrap all that together, you can start to see that actually, that unparalleled selection, all of those different missions, trying to bring them together into a familiar experience is really where we do see we can make it much simpler and easier for customers.
Okay, there's a lot to dig into there. So thank you for sharing that example. There's almost a slight contradiction. So you're talking about life's hard, and we've just heard Stuart from Kroger talking about wanting to save time and money. You want to make things simple as fast. But you've also talked about this ecosystem where you're giving so much choice. You add Whole Foods into the mix, you add your partner stores into the mix to people who are already overwhelmed. So how do you make sense of balancing those two like contradictory forces?
Yeah, no, and we agree completely, Ben. I think, at the end of the day, customers do want choice when they're shopping. I think, as we've heard from a number of speakers, whether that is online in stores, whether it is for occasions, whether it's for premium, whether it is for, budget lines. But in reality, what the customer does really want is that one familiar experience, because in all reality, if you are shopping for, excuse me,
All right.
I will open that, thank you. If you are shopping those 4 or 5 different retailers, you're not really going to be picking up, thank you.
problem.
You're not going to be picking up those savings or, loyalty programs from that one membership. So that is where we want to really bring that kind of convenient, familiar experience together. From an Amazon point of view,
Yes.
we look to see what many customers are already part of today. And of course, that would be Prime membership. Prime for us isn't just what I'd say kind of fast, free delivery. It's much more than that.
Yeah.
The benefits, go from medical prescriptions to your doorsteps. It goes from Prime Video, low-cost grocery subscription, and many, many more. I think if I double down more on Prime with grocery, what that really means is actually, deeper and exclusive savings on products which, matter to customers at a great quality. From an Amazon Fresh point of view, we will have, in the last probably couple of weeks, months, expanded our Prime Savings exclusive program. So now Prime members can have more discounted products on over 3,000 lines across online and in store. Whole Foods Market also done very much similar again. So again, locking in the Prime membership if you're shopping in Whole Foods. It would absolutely be fair to say, though, Ben, there is so much more we can do. We're pleased with where we've started in this space. But the mission for us to simplify those shopping missions by mixing and matching that selection, as well as looking at different fulfillment and delivery options, is very much work in progress. As you'd imagine, at Amazon, we've got a lot of trials and tests in this space. And of course, we'll share more when we know more.
Okay. You've mentioned
Thank you for the water.
Prime. It's Prime Day. I'm sure that hasn't gone amiss. So it's a really relevant time to talk about it. And when we were having some of the conversations ahead of this, there was a phrase that I jotted down. You talked about it being the connective tissue in Amazon, which I think many of us in the audience will understand. But at the same time, you just sort of added on an extra level of subscription within the fresh business, within grocery. So can you just talk about the thinking behind that and what are you trying to achieve and how are customers responding?
Thank you for giving a shout out to Prime Day to start with. It carries on for a couple more hours. As you said, we launched a national grocery subscription in April this year. For Prime members. It was the first time we'd actually launched a national grocery subscription, which had that unparalleled selection, really wanting to bring Whole Foods, Amazon Fresh, and also our local grocery partners into one offer for the customers. Just by ordering one delivery a month, it paid for itself. It had a 35 FST, but actually the ability to shop across those 3 is where we're seeing, customer sign-ups continue to be really, really strong. Since April, we've seen much bigger orders. We've seen a higher frequency in shops, and not surprisingly, a huge amount of cross-banner shopping. Fascinating what customers do buy when you bring all different offerings to them, and that really for us is back to that point that you made around bringing all of those experiences together into one convenient, familiar experience, and in this case, order it, whether it's monthly or biannually. It's now in 3,500 cities in the US and towns, and we're delighted with the progress.
Okay, so it's the next stage in connecting those dots and bringing it all together. Okay, interesting. I've just jotted down, you mentioned partner grocers as part of that answer. I'd just like to reflect on that a little bit. We've had a few of your partner grocers have spoken during the show, Good Field Holdings, Advice Markets, and Iceland are here from the UK. I think, you're worldwide VP, can you talk us through the global strategy? Because where I sit and the family are in London, we see it kind of playing out differently in different markets. So what are you trying to achieve globally with this kind of partnership approach to grocery?
Yeah, we're really proud to be working with so many, fantastic grocery partners. And as you said, I've also had the opportunity of again, meeting some of the teams today. And it was great. Many of them spoke yesterday as well. From a global point of view, as you said, we have a number in the US, but also our grocery partnerships does go across UK, Europe and Asia. In the UK, we do have a kind of Iceland, Morrison and Co-op. We also go to France with Monoprix and Life in Japan. Where we see our role in partnerships is how we can enable the partner very much through the online delivery in order that actually those customers can almost from the comfort of their own home order those beloved private brands that those grocery local retailers provide, but through a familiar app, in this case Amazon same-day delivery. We find the customers, not surprisingly, love it because actually they've got selection that they couldn't have had without potentially that support of Amazon. And the partners, also love it because it tends to grow their reach from where they're positioned in a physical presence. We've actually been at Grocery Partners since 2015, with Morrison's actually in the UK. Yeah. It would be fair to say a few rocky roads back then, particularly the back end of the systems and some of the hardware as well. So we've learned, I'd say, a huge amount, and the partners have been fantastic, helping us know what we need to do better. I've got another list this morning, actually, so still always plenty to do. Yeah. And I would say, not one size fits all. We've got lots of different examples across the US and the UK. I'll use some of the UK examples. If I take Morrison's and how we've integrated some of that work there, it started off very much where we were enabling online in their stores. But since then, we've now put returns lockers into the stores as well as the automated cart in order that customers can obviously also in Morrison's bring their returns packages as they shop, which again supports their mission of bringing customers to the store. We've also more recently put 1,000 private brand lines from Morrison's into one of the Amazon Fresh stores in the UK. And the one that was probably, I think, delighted us all was a couple of weeks ago where we linked the Morrison's loyalty card, Mall Card, in order that customers who actually bought groceries on Amazon could earn Morrison's points. And we've been blown away by the success. Tens of thousands of customers have now linked their two cards together, which I think has given us both, great comfort of the value that gives. The luxury of the global element is we can take all these learnings back and forth, into the US, the UK, to Asia. Wise, was the first US retailer in 2023 to actually link up their rewards program. If I look at some of the new partners we've just brought on in the US, I'll be selfish. I live in Seattle, so I'll use Metropolitan Market. But again, fantastic success there. Again, back to the kind of ground of what these partners are brilliant at is bringing that selection at that very local level. For those who know Met Market, they do an outstanding cookie, albeit I'm told others do great cookies as well, but I've probably tried that one more. And again, thousands of customers have now purchased a cookie since they've been live on that platform.
And I think it's it's really interesting to talk about what you've been doing with Morrison's and some of those examples you've given. In the UK, sort of 15+% of the grocery market is going through your partners, which is very different to where we are in the US. But I'm also really mindful of the clock, so I'm going to move us on because I want to talk about in-store versus online. So obviously Amazon famous for in-store, but the amount of coverage and interest in your physical stores, it's huge. So let's step back. As part of your overall vision for grocery, what's the role of physical stores within that mix?
Yeah, not to Amazon Fresh, let's just start there from a history point of view. 2007 was where we actually started online deliveries out to Seattle. 2020 was when we put our first physical store down. Through unprecedented times, it would be fair to say. We learned a lot. And when I joined Amazon, myself and the team, needed to pause. We needed to listen to customers. We needed to see what resonated more. And that is when we put the expansion on hold. Over last year, we learned lots around what we needed to improve: selection, promotions, price, better layouts in stores. And we took that new design to Chicago and LA last year. Customers gave us great feedback around how that was resonating and the satisfaction, and that then helped us push forward this year into renovating nearly all of our US and UK stores. And we are now selectively opening new stores in the US at a time when we feel the results, we like what we see.
Okay, that's interesting. I mean, needing to fix selection, price, and layout, that's a pretty fundamental rebuild. One of the things you did was change some of the tech in there. You put your dash carts in. What have you learned from introducing dash cart at scale? What's that bringing back into the business?
Yeah, two things. Your first point on actually needing to double down on the foundations, critical on selection and availability.
Let's come back to that.
I think on your dash cart point, we know customers don't like queuing. We don't like waiting in queues. No one really likes to wait around. The dash cart brought a different way for a customer to be able to shop. They could scan the products. They like to be able to see the real time of how it added up. They could find the deals, and of course, more importantly, they could skip the checkout line. Customer feedback has been really strong from a satisfaction point of view. It's in the 80s.
Okay.
The repeat usage is in the 98%. And from an overall point of view, they've been a raving success to us.
Okay, interesting. So let's go back to that first point, so range and availability. And that's been one of the challenges. I think many of us will have walked around the first iterations. How are you fixing those fundamentals? What's different about the next generation of the physical stores for Amazon Fresh?
I'd start by saying the customers are saying we're getting better. I'd also say we've still got plenty of still to do, and I'm sure if I'm still here in 30 years' time, I'll still be saying we can still be better. So I think those two things in retail, grocery particularly, will remain. From a selection point of view, since we acquired Whole Foods, we've been able to really anchor down and share some of that capability between the two businesses, whether that's within perishable supply chain, but also in kind of private brands. As I said, we've increased the selection across Fresh to really kind of fill in the gaps where we did have some quite big gaps in order to be able to deliver that weekly shop. And private brands has played a much bigger role. We've now got a tiering within our brands, whether that is from Whole Foods 365 to Amazon Saver, which we launched just a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
As I said, customers, we're getting better, which is what they're telling us. It's a read we look at 2-3 times a day. Always more we can do, and there is always what we will do.
Interesting. Okay, well, one last question. Let's make it a bit more personal. 18 months in the role now. What's been your biggest learning, and what's been your happiest surprise?
Probably my biggest learning. Well, it's a learning which everyone in this room will know, that I think that connective tissue between online and in-store has never been so important for customers and team. From Amazon's point of view, it's obviously always had a very large .com grocery household business, and if anything, we're just starting to get into the physical space. You know, myself, you know, probably came the other way round. So, you know, that's really exciting for what we can actually do. If I anchor it back to that ambition of how we do maximize, you know, the Prime memberships that we do have in order to be able to give them that familiar experience through something that they can reduce their emissions, is where I just think there is so much for us to do. From the happiest moment, I would say, you know, I'm fortunate enough to work, whether it's in the US and also in the world, with just some outstanding people who are up for absolutely anything. From someone who's worked in retailing for 28 years to be able to learn something new every day in grocery retailing, it's an absolute joy, and it's the best part of the business to work in.
Fantastic. What a great way to end. Please join me in thanking Claire Peters.
Thank you. Thank you.